Adopting elements of different cultures is a natural human consequence of interaction between different groups. But how can we differentiate between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation? Hi, my name is Reanne and today I will be talking about cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation within pop culture. The aim of this video is to explore the exploitation of celebrities utilizing aspects of culture other than their own for their star image. In the recent years, this sensitive topic has become a talking point for when celebrities are seen utilizing an element of a different culture. It's always been questioned whether or not this person is appropriating or appreciating that particular culture. To begin discussing this topic, we need to understand what appropriating culture means. The academic definition of appropriating culture by Susan Scafidi is taking intellectual property, traditional knowledge, cultural expressions, or artifacts from someone else's culture without permission. This can include unauthorized use of another culture's dance, dress, music, language, folklore, cuisine, traditional medicine, religious symbols, etc. It's most likely to be harmful when the source community is a minority group that has been oppressed or exploited in other ways, or when the objection of appropriation is particularly sensitive. For example, sacred objects. In simpler terms, it is when someone adopts elements of a different culture other than their own. Say, for instance, wearing a bindi as a fashion accessory, which you've probably seen numerous celebrities wear this. But when a person has grown up in our diverse community, it is very likely that they will have inherited customs, dialects, and other traditions from the cultures around them. This is because of the melting pot in certain countries that allows different people with different cultures to share their knowledge and customs with each other. This is cultural appreciation. This is learning about another culture with respect and appreciating it by interacting and learning among that culture to understand it more. However, it has become a confusion between appropriation and appreciation because of some taking aspects of culture other than their own to create a Halloween costume. This occurs within the fashion community, which I will go further into, but examples of this are burqas, hijabs, cornrows, bindis. These elements are borrowed or stolen from cultures and religions to portray themselves as edgy or trendy. This brings us to ask the question, where does the line between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation start to blur? Let's discuss with recent pop culture examples. The representation of Native Americans has been an issue for centuries because of the dominant culture objectifying and appropriating their personal identities for their own purposes. This can be seen within the media, but can convey the misrepresentation of the cultural meaning of what it means to the Native Americans and can dehumanize them in the process. Without an understanding of the role of power and its history in the context of colonialism and imperialism in determining what constitutes cultural appropriation, one is left with what can easily be another tool of fascist cultural exclusivity. In 2014, Pharrell Williams posed in a Native American war bonnet on the cover of LUK magazine. Many Native Americans and others were very upset about the utilization of this significant garment, which is considered to be a sacred garb of chief and warriors. After the controversy and the media surrounding the photo, Williams apologized to his fans. "I respect and honor every kind of race, background, and culture. I am genuinely sorry." Although Pharrell said that he has Native American and Egyptian heritages, that does not mean that he can use the headdress for a fashion item for the cover of Elle magazine. He is still contributing to the stereotypes that are tied to the Native American culture. Adrienne Keene, the author of Native Appropriations, explained further about the significant meaning of the feather headdresses from her "But Why Can't I Wear a Hipster Headdress" post. Eagle feathers are presented as a symbol of honor and respect and have to be earned. Some communities give them to children when they become adults through special ceremonies. Others present the feathers as a way of commemorating an act or event of deep significance. War bonnets, especially, are reserved for respected figures of power. This is the consequence of not being respectful of an aspect of another's culture and their traditions, because it will lead them to misrepresent and appropriate that person's culture. Pharrell did not show tribute to his heritage, as he forgot the sanctity of the headdress in the eyes of Plains Indian people and respectfully apologized. This is a spiritual item, and when this traditional garment is worn on the cover of LUK, it becomes an accessory and not an item to be earned. Within pop culture, celebrities can be seen utilizing Asians in Asian culture as props and trendy accessories. For example, remember Gwen Stefani's Harajuku girl's face, where she had 4 Japanese backup dancers attached to her side wearing either schoolgirl or sailor outfits, acting as her props. The way that Stefani portrayed the Japanese girls was stereotypical and is an example of utilizing Asian women as accessories. Disregarding the heavy criticism, Stefani does not regret the Harajuku girls, as she does not consider this as stereotypical or appropriative, but instead she viewed it as a ping pong match, as she viewed the interaction between her and the Japanese girls as a cultural exchange where she would learn about Japanese culture and then they would learn about American culture. Most recent celebrity or celebrities that have been accused is Coldplay and Beyonce's new video, Him for the Weekend, which has sparked a debate on whether or not it is appropriating Indian culture. As you see, Beyonce is portraying a Bollywood actress wearing a sari, henna tattoos on her hands, and traditional Indian jewelry. The video has caused people online to question whether or not it was intended to celebrate or appropriate Indian culture. Many feel that the video could have featured a real Bollywood actress. If we compare this video to Major Laser's music video, Lean On, which had an Indian backdrop for the musicians in the video, it conveys a lack of understanding of the culture and the fascination of the East, as Edward Said referred it in his theory, Orientalism. It conveys the majesticism of India, where they can ride elephants and show off their synchronized dancing to a music that does not relate to Indian culture. Cultural appropriation of black culture is the most widely discussed and criticised within pop culture. A recent example is MTV UK posting a step-by-step hair tutorial on their Twitter page which showed how to get cornrows, using a picture of Kim Kardashian who has her hair in cornrows. Whether you're off down the gym or need a casual but polished day-to-night style, meet your new favourite hairdo, boxer braids. The simple double Dutch braided style is totally having a moment right now. But they renamed their hairstyle as boxer braids. Now, this completely disregards the origin of where cornrows came from, and it pays no respect to the black people who have plaited their hair in this particular style for centuries. This is an example of how a white woman is free to take on and off a hairstyle that a black woman would be ostracized for. White people do not have to face the institutional barriers that black people have to. As they cannot keep their hair in a natural state, black people have to assimilate to the Eurocentric standards that are set by the dominant culture in order to survive. In January 2016, Mango revealed that Kendall Jenner would be the new face in one portion of their 4-part Tribal Spirit Spring 2016 campaign. Mango's collection is inspired by African savanna and includes pieces covered in tribal print and fringe. Critics have already questioned on the decision to use a white model to represent a collection that is inspired by Africa. Mango's vice president Daniel Lopez confirmed that the American model was the most fitting person for this collection. We thought that she was the best model to embody this trend, and obviously the upside of that, as a model, she's very professional, she works fantastically. As a celebrity, she has huge repercussions in the market and among her followers. But why not choose a model that actually represents aspects of African heritage? Why do you need to cast a white model to symbolize African culture? This is an example of how diversity is an ongoing issue within the fashion industry, especially when it comes to casting non-white models. In 2015, Nico Belay found out that for the fall 2015 couture show, out of 482 models that had walked the runway, only 17 of them were black. Xavier Teo, the head of the Udutami Association, an organization that supports minorities in Spain, has criticized the choice of model to the La Vanguardia newspaper. Mango should support peoples whose cultures inspire its collections. It would be a nice way to return the favor. It would have been a wise decision to hire an African model, and the campaign would have had more success in the media. These are not the only celebrities that have been called out for misrepresenting black culture. Iggy Azalea, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, and Miley Cyrus have been criticized for their appropriation and their seeming fetishism of black culture. Each of them have taken an element of black culture and either portrayed or used inappropriately. Amanda Stenberg, an African-American actress, created a video on the negative aspects of cultural appropriation, referring to how black features are favored, but black people are not.
What would America be like if we loved black people as much as we love black culture?
This is the main problem with cultural appropriation because of the dominant groups borrowing from the marginalized groups who have faced oppression or denounced for their cultural practices. So why is this an ongoing issue?
I think it's more about the fact that this is what pop culture does. You know, you can look to the fact that in the late 90s and beyond, like hip hop went from being a very New York local genre of music to being a multi-million-dollar industry that profited a lot of people beyond just the artists and producers involved in the creation of the music, right? That's sort of the MO of pop music. That's the MO of record labels. That's the MO of artists once they engage with pop culture on a certain level, is to find ways to commodify imagery that's interesting to people, even if that imagery is interesting to consumers at a great distance.
What bothers me about this issue is the fact that it's the media is where it mostly happens. As millions of people can see images, trends, performances just of celebrities utilizing aspects of different cultures. Now, this can be seen as a market strategy to boost a celebrity's image in order for them to stay trendy, but don't take into account of the racism and the oppression that the marginalized groups have to face because their cultural practices are not accepted by the dominant groups. But when they are shown on them, they are ethnic for wearing cornrows, or exotic for wearing a bindi, or oriental for wearing a kimono. Questions that I've seen whilst researching: why is this important? Who cares if I'm appropriating cultures? What does and doesn't count as cultural appropriation? It's important because by taking certain aspects of cultures and making it into a fashion statement or into a performance, it's enforcing the stereotypes that have already been perpetrated by the dominant culture. This is why, by changing how society erases and dehumanizes people of colour, it can stop the oppression that the marginalised communities have been a part of for many years. I believe that cultural appropriation is a very complex topic because of what underlies about the issue. We cannot simply call out someone because we need to ask questions before condemning that individual. Who are they? Do they have to claim to utilize these elements? But I want you to understand that cultural appropriation highlights the power imbalance of those who are in power and those who have been historically marginalized. Celebrities need to understand that when the traditions, beliefs, and the history of another's culture are portrayed incorrectly with many conceptions, the issues around this topic will still continue to arise. Thank you.